working, because it worked and then it didn't work. Right, let's try plugging. Let's try the old way. Plug it in and then put it back in again. Now, is that working now that it's back in? Is it still working? Are we still working? Are we okay? Da-da-da. Are we back in the room? Back in the room. Are we fixed? Are we fixed? Are we 100% sure it's fixed? Good. Excellent. Excellent. Because, like I say, I still don't know why. But don't worry. There's less wind this morning, but should we be encountering yet more failures, we do have a backup. So we are ready this morning for all eventualities. You can hear me in Thailand. Excellent. That's what matters. And there's a horse here with a very extravagant coat. Oh, it just goes trotting off. But yeah. It's the only time I've actually seen the you see him there in the background. The only time I've seen the horse with a coat on out here. Because I genuinely feel bad sometimes. I really, really do. Because it honestly looks like these horses and ponies have generally just been abandoned in the field sometime. They really, really do. They really do. So it is quite strange. Because we've had last summer, I don't know if I remember showing you, the ponies had all spiny, prickly things in their manes and all up and down the tails, and they looked awful. And then yesterday, I don't know if we'll see him, there was a pony and he was literally just caked in, like, just literally crusted in mud. I'm like, oh, I feel so sorry for them, but I don't know how much I can actually do to help them. But anyway, good morning to you all. I think there was someone from Dusseldorf is joining us. Good morning to you. Henk, good morning to you. Koban from Thailand, good morning to you. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning to you all. Oh, hang on, there we go. Good morning, Esquire. Thank you. Well, thank you, Square. Is a nice morning today. Not as windy as last week. It's typical. The week that I decide, you know what, the microphones are playing up, so you know what, I'm not going to take it today because I think it will be all right for the wind. Good morning to you, Jan. Good morning to you. How are we all today? Because it's been a fun week. It really has. Really fun. So, where to begin? Where to begin? It's a bit nippy this morning. It is a bit nippy this morning. Like I say, this week has been quite weird because we've gone from me dressed like this in like full winter gear to then going out to it being 2 days of absolutely red hot blazing sun, and then now back to this. So, you know, typical British weather fools you into thinking one thing when it actually really is the other. So let's talk about, because there's so much to talk about and so much that I've missed out talking about in the last couple of weeks. Where to begin? Tell you what, as always, let's talk about Brexit. So, for those of you who know, or are in the know, this week, the Biden administration decided that it was going to put a 25% tariff on clothing, shoes, and textiles. Now, why on earth is the Biden administration doing this? Well, this is because the government announced that it wanted to take on the big tech firms. Now, this is quite funny because we've mentioned before about now that Britain has left the European Union, now it is no longer part and pooling its sovereignty with, should we say, multiple other countries. 26 other countries it was pooling its sovereignty to. One of the big things was how powerful and how secretly strong we actually were in that grouping. But the Brexiteers were assuring us that once we left there, it wasn't actually the EU that was actually helping build our economy for so many years. Oh, there we go. I wonder if that'll do it. There we go. So what happened is that the Brexiteers came up with this fantastic lie that they like to tell themselves. That, oh, hang on, a bit wobbly. See, this is the next thing I need to get. I need to get a stabilizer. So the Brexiteers came up with this fantastic lie that Britain was really this secret trading empire, and they could show you by pointing out to Britain's magnificent imperial past with its fantastic, oh, there we go. That's better. You could point back to its fantastic imperialist past and show, look how strong Britain was as this magnificent trading power. And as we've said before, if you know anything about if you know anything about the British Empire, historically, you know that empire was built on colonization and the exploitation of other countries, and essentially going around the world with massive battleships and turning up at countries' ports and going, if you don't sign this agreement, then it's a nice port you've got there. Shame if our guns opened fire on it. Or even funding rebellions to put in leaders who were more favourable to the British Empire. The list goes on and on of what we actually were. We were anything but a trading power. We were a colonial power. And that's what the Brexiteers don't seem to understand. They seem to have bought in to that fantasy as well. And the lie was told at the referendum that we were this secret trading power, but in reality we are being held back by the EU. And once we're free, we'll be free to unshackle ourselves and go buccaneering around the world again like we used to. But what they don't tell you is that because of this Biden tariff was a retaliation to us trying to say we want to take on these big tech companies that have been using tax loopholes or essentially sending their profits out of the country so that they can't be taxed. And not only were we doing this, but the EU has done this as well. In fact, if you'll note this tax rise, even though this tax does exist in the EU as well, it has not been levied against the EU. The US has not levied it against the EU. They've only levied it against us. Because as Brexiteers love to moan about EU protectionism, they forgot one thing: the US protectionism. And as a result, this is one of those things where it really just shows you how weak our position is. But these Brexiteers are somehow expecting us to get this fantastic trade deal with, with America. So I don't know what they were thinking when this very, now that Biden slapped this deal on us, that just goes to show you just how weak the proposition was for all this. So, and remember, this isn't a Trump administration. This is a Biden administration. This has happened this week. So the knock-on effect for this, of course, is expect clothes and shoes, if they're from the US, to get more expensive. And of course, the Brexiteers were very, very quick to claim at the referendum that if we left the EU, we could do all these fantastic deals and, we'd be able to get cheaper stuff. But of course, as we've said before, if you bring in cheaper manufactured goods, you then damage your own local manufacturing base, because very often these manufacturing bases cannot compete. It's just as simple as that, because very often we are literally competing against countries, especially in the clothing department. We've got big factories over here, we've got workers' rights, which again are good and we should absolutely have. We've got, condition regulations, working time regulations, we've got good pay regulations, there are unions, all this stuff exists and is good for the working people of the country. The only problem is that the Brexiteers now are insistent that we can do these quote-unquote fantastic deals, and it's going to destroy our manufacturing base completely, because a UK company that makes clothing or shoes here cannot compete against a manufacturer that is in a third world country that basically uses sweatshop conditions to make clothes and then sends them here and then pretty much makes almost 1,000% profit. And I don't know what the grand plan is, but I'm absolutely fantastic that this has actually happened, because once again it just shows you what an absolute disaster and what liars the Tories were when they were talking about Brexit. Even the Brexiteers themselves were lying when they were talking about Brexit. And then, speaking of liars, because this is another thing that happened this week, the shellfish industry, as you may very well know, has, since the beginning of the year, been unable to essentially trade with the EU. And this has cut down their profits massively. We're talking in the millions. We're talking almost millions and millions of pounds worth of mussels, mollusks, oysters being unable to be farmed and sent to the EU. Why? Because, as we've mentioned multiple times, multiple times, when we left the EU, if we did not remain in the single market or customs union, we would become what is known to the EU as a third country. And as a result, we would be treated as a third country. And the mollusk farmers and the shellfish farmers, who all voted for Brexit because they believed the lies of the Brexiteers, are now paying for that by essentially many of them ready to lose their business, because one of the things that we do not eat a lot of in this country is seafood. We might be an island nation, but we are not Japan, where they consume hundreds of thousands of, seafood on the day, literally by the day. We do not. We are not a fishing nation. We do not eat oysters. We do not eat fish. In fact, the most popular, I think the most popular fish dish we actually eat in the UK is fish fingers. So, so that about sums it up, really does. About sums it up. So, we've got huge problems with that industry that is basically on the point of bankruptcy. And they announced this week that they are going to sue DEFRA, which is the Department for Rural Agricultural and Food Standards. Hopefully I've got that right. That they are going to sue them because they lied to them over their position of trading post-Brexit. Now, DEFRA, when they responded to this, essentially decided to blame the EU. And once again, this makes them look completely foolish, because their claim was that the EU changed the rules on them, that they're at fault, and it's nothing to do with Brexit. When in reality, the EU never changed any rules. The reality is we were the one changing the rules on ourselves, because, well, we're the ones who decided to leave the European Union, single market and customs union because reasons, essentially. You can't get any better than that. It was just, why are we leaving the EU? Reasons. And of course, none of those reasons for leaving have so far turned out to be true, helpful, or even accurate. So, in the future, we've got a lawsuit potentially to look forward to, because the government will have to, if it is to defend itself, it will now have to take up the lies of the Leave campaign, which is fantastic, and try and prove that the Leave campaign's lies about Brexit were true. And of course, anyone can tell you, anyone can tell you a mile apart, that ain't gonna happen. They are not going to be able to substantiate that the lies that they sold to people were true. And that is going to be absolutely fantastic. And I would love to see other industries follow suit on this, because it would be absolutely fantastic for other industries heavily affected by Brexit to essentially start suing the government because they lied about their position. That would be, if that happened, that would genuinely be absolutely fantastic, because this would take down Brexit left, right, and centre. It really would, and it would absolutely be ingenious to see it happen. The and again, this is what we've talked about hundreds of times before on this, and you know, the mantra is, well, we told you so. And you know, that's the situation, and it's absolutely hilarious. But there you go. I do hope they sue them. And quite frankly, when that court case goes through, we will be following it when that happens, as much as we can, of course. So there you go. That's it. So what else has happened this week? Well, we've had some very, very ironic statements posed by the Leavers who lived in the European Union but refused to leave. So this is another story, and I wonder what the consequences for this further down the line will be. This could see this could maybe see certain parts of the country start to actually call for essentially trying to restart freedom of movement, which would be hilarious. So for those of you who don't know, as you may very well know, hundreds of thousands of Brits enjoyed essentially the perks of freedom of movement and the single market, being able to live and work in pretty much any European country and essentially enjoy those freedoms without having to essentially go through all the rigmarole of actually having to apply for citizenship and all that type of stuff, essentially. So what has been happening since then? Well, as I said before, there would be what we call the Great Brexodus, and that is all the English immigrants, let's call them that, because essentially that's what they are, who went to live and work in Spain, mainly in places like Tenerife and the Canary Islands. Um, if you've ever been to those places, you will know there are like almost compounds of bizarre only fools and horses bars, and it's bizarre to say the least. But these things unfortunately existed. I don't know why anyone would open an only fools and horses bar, um, but there you go. So they decided in their wisdom that to vote, many of them voted to leave for the European Union. Oh, thank you, Yukima, for a cup of tea. Take care. Thank you very much for that donation. Don't worry, I will do, as always. And they decided that they were going to ignore this European this change, shall we say, that would ultimately affect them. So essentially, these people, I mean, this goes back decades, because you can look back, and I'm pretty sure if you typed in expats ask for their own MP, believe it or not, they actually wanted to campaign and start a campaign for these expats to have their own MP. Even though they did not live in the UK, they demanded that they wanted political representation in the UK Parliament for a place that they lived in. It's almost like that they should have paid more attention to what happened in the European Parliament rather than their own Parliament. But there you go. I'm sure a lot of lessons about this are very being learned this week, ultimately. Oh. So this is the ultimate state of all these things. So we have to ask, as always, the usual ridiculous question of why were these people thinking that they could stay there? Well, you've no longer got to look and wonder why, because very often the answer is to look back to the Leave campaign, of all things, and look at what they were saying to many expats. And they were assuring them that things would not change, that they could stay where they were in these countries and just things wouldn't change. And as we said at the time, that's ridiculous, because if we leave the European Union, this will mean that your second home in Spain, or maybe, as a lot of these people did, they moved out to these countries and lived and worked there under, again, the protection of what were essentially freedom of movement laws. And of course, now we're no longer in the EU and that we're a third country, those things no longer apply. So, as a result, many Brits and expats this week, or immigrants, whatever you want to call them, although the correct term is actually it's technically not British citizens would be the correct term. Expatriate, or expat as we coined the term, refers to someone who has moved to another country and has become a resident of that country. So, tomato, I suppose, is the real case when you want to talk about that. Yukima, don't forget, a lot of British immigrants could not vote because of the 15 years rule. The whole Brexit vote was a big undemocratic fraud. Indeed, Yukima, I do agree with you on that one. It was. Because as the Brexiteers so like to continuously tell us, they knew what they were voting for when, again, they had absolutely no idea what they were voting for. So I think the bizarre knock-on effect I think for this will be is it wouldn't surprise me if you started to see campaigns calling for freedom of movement to return, led by these people that were now forced to move. And it's not just Spain, by the way. There was a story in from Germany, I think it was this week, of 3 British electricians who, because again they could do this, like I say, there was an entire TV series called Auf Wiedersehen Pets about a group of engineers who couldn't find work in the UK, so they used the EU freedom of movement to go and work in Germany to remove a bridge, essentially. And that's essentially what happened here. You had 3 British electricians who were essentially, they lived in the UK, but what would happen was that they would go over on the ferry to work in Germany, and then they would come back at like the weekend to have to spend their time at home. And of course, under these new rules, you are timed on, of course, how long you can actually stay in the EU. So this has now meant that these guys, obviously, like many of these other people who for some reason decided that they could stay, even though they were told that no, you can't stay, ran out their time on their clock. So this is the end result of it, and I would not be surprised if at least for the next couple of weeks, if we do not see headlines of people being deported back to the UK from the EU. Would not surprise me at all if we saw headlines like that, at least for the next couple of weeks. And of course, once again, as I've said before, it's a shame the coronavirus is still around, because I guarantee you, if holidays were in play, I guarantee you if holidays were still in play, you would see huge front page headlines from the likes of the Daily Express, the Daily Mail, basically saying, the EU ruined my holiday. You know? So it would not surprise me at all in the least for that to start happening. And of course, we've mentioned before that many, again, because of the coronavirus, it's actually been a massive benefit to Brexiteers, because trust me, if the UK was running normally, we would see far more stuff. over that. You know, we would be seeing all huge other industries talking about this. And I've said before, many people have said, well, why haven't we heard from the farmers yet? Well, I'll show you why we haven't heard from the farmers yet. See this field behind me? Just that one there. You'll notice what's absent from that field. The crops, the plants. Because the farmer's trade cycle does not start... Oh, hang on. Is Paul causing trouble? Well, I'm sorry, Paul, but if you're gonna do that, I'm sorry, buddy, but I'm gonna have to put you on a timeout. Where are you? Oh. Don't know why it won't do it today. Oh, come on, normally it just works. Normally I just click it and it just works. Oh well. So, as you can see from the background there, obviously there's no there's no crops in the field yet, because they have not yet started their cycle yet. Their cycle actually ended before this whole Brexit mess. So soon, very soon, we are going to be seeing, I think towards the end of the year, of farmers who then cannot trade with the EU. We've already seen that the meat industry has lost millions of pounds worth in profit, being unable to trade with the EU. And again, farmers are a massive support block for the Tories. So it's going to be absolutely hilarious now that the fishing industry has turned against them. The farming industry is also going to turn against them. And then British businesses are also going to start shouting from the rooftops about wanting to be back in the single market and customs union. You know, this is, I'd hate to say it, but this is what's going to happen. That's what's essentially going to happen. And then if you think about it, that's three big blocks of very, very influential blocks indeed in the Tory party that are going to be very, very angry with the Tory party and may even end up flipping to another party. Or, as I've predicted before, that there is going to be a right royal Tory bruise-up. Because as we said before, there are two big ideas in the Tory party. That of levelling up and global Britain. And neither can survive without undermining the other. Because if you want to level up the country, that will include implementing some form of protectionism. And every single country engages in protectionism to protect its own businesses and its own economy. This is what made the EU so successful. That it was all these countries banding together to help create and protect their own interest and own internal market. And of course, the Brexiteers did not seem to get that. Even the free market fundamentalists, who you would have thought would have been all over the single market have missed the most obvious prize of all of being in the single market. Again, it doesn't make sense when you strip away all the political arguments, leave, remain, whatever, and you just look at Brexit from a pure economic standpoint. It just doesn't make sense. In fact, FSM, where are my ponies? Don't worry, they're coming up. Don't worry. They're coming up. So none of the, there was an absolute, I'm just trying to remember who it was. Was it the Centre for, I'll have to try and find it, but I will try and repost it later on today. But there was an absolutely fantastic live stream done a couple of days ago, but I think it was what was it now? I can't remember the name, damn it. But anyway, it was a group of economists who were all looking at Brexit and its economy and looking at what the future would be. And of course, no surprise, it's not going to be good, because when you look at the things like the economy, it's very, very easy to do because it's all numbers. It's very simple. It's like an equation. The EU is just a number to the economists. So what you do is you remove the EU from the equation, and all the answers are clearly pointing that our economy is going to go very wrong very quickly. Doesn't matter about all these quote unquote extra trade deals that Liz Truss is doing. And by the way, they're not trade deals. Let's get that sorted out. Many of them are essentially what they're called continuity deals, while a new trade deal is to be written. And of course, if you want to see how, quote, fantastic those trade deals are set to be, like I say in the past, we've talked about the Japan deal many, many times, and just how actually bad that is compared to the deal we had when we were in the European Union and their deal with Japan. Like I say, for some reason, our second biggest foreign investor, Japan, it was decided in this trade deal that there would be no investment rules put in this trade deal. So that means you can pretty much kiss goodbye to any more further Japanese investments into the UK. I've said it before, the best worst case scenario for Brexit, less exports means smaller economy, less investment, less jobs. That's the best worst case scenario. Even the government, with their own white papers, has shown multiple times how bad it would actually be to leave the EU. And of course, they have fought tooth and nail to try and keep these impact assessments covered up. Indeed, the current impact assessment of this very deal that we have signed is being tried so hard currently to be covered up by none other than everyone's good old boy. I was going to call him George Michael then. Michael Gove. So, like I say, Brexit just is not going well. And I've said it before, I really, really do think at the end of this year, we're going to see the government publish something like the the Brexit success report, I really genuinely do think that they will be dumb enough, I do say dumb enough, to try and publish that. Because, like on a bizarre note, COVID has been the best thing ever for the Brexiteers. Because it has covered up so much potential damage. Like I say, so many businesses at the moment are not even working or working at full capacity. So many of these businesses in the next couple of months, when people do start to get back to work, as these businesses do start to ramp up, like production, their business in general, we're going to see more stories of, I can't trade with the EU anymore. There goes my, £500 million market. And there was a sales guy who basically said it himself back when we saw the sales figures and the exports drop to the EU, and he basically said, if only you knew how difficult it is to actually try and expand just by 1%, you'd be horrified and shocked and shouting at the rooftops if your sales market had dropped by about 40+%, Oh, Helen, thank you very much. Nice cat emoji there. Thank you very much for that. So I really am. I'm lost for words. I really am. It's so bizarre. So bizarre on this, and I see people are already talking about the vaccine row. And of course, again, this is not the EU's fault, because other countries have also bought their own stockpile of vaccines. So again, something that the Brexiteers were claiming that we couldn't do, that actually we can do. Of course, this is the EU's approach to the vaccine of, look, we're not all free until we're all free. It's basically been that simple. And even if you look at the vaccine rates, we are actually still behind on a lot of countries. Because it seems to be that the UK have been essentially stealing vaccines that are meant for other countries. And remember, we bought the AZ jab long before it was proved to actually work, which again, risk itself, and we bought it at twice the price. Like I say, when it comes time to have the inquest into this. Oh, thank you very much. Who was that? Haley, thank you very much. Appreciate what you do. Thank you very much for that. We'll definitely buy a coffee with that. Oh, and for those of you wanting ponies, they are coming up. So it's very, very, very obvious, economy-wise, what is about to happen to the UK. Very, very obvious. It's going to be fun to see how they start to explain it, because they already can't. They're already looking absolutely foolish when they turn around and say, well, it's the EU's fault. Like I say, we're no longer in the EU. We no longer have to follow all these dreaded EU rules that you say there is. You know? It's absolutely ridiculous. Really, honestly, truly is. But that's where we are, unfortunately. And again, this whole vaccine route is being pursued by Joris Joris Johnson, by Boris Johnson. Hello. This whole vaccine route is being pursued by Boris Johnson, I think, to essentially try and prove. Oh, he's gone off. To essentially try and prove that leaving the EU was a quote unquote good idea. Of course, it's never really going to be the case for this. You know, we've said it hundreds of thousands of times before. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's, as someone said there, it's propaganda. It's vaccine jingoism, and that's the most stupid thing about it. You can't wave a flag at a virus, at a virus, and expect it to go away. And you are right. It is, as Paul just said there. It's a dead cat to try and cover the essentially not only the failings of Brexit, but also the failings of the Tory party during this coronavirus crisis. And like I say, we should be pushing massively for a public inquiry into what happened during the coronavirus, because I tell you now, this will dismantle the Tory party literally left, right and centre. Even the Tories know that when it happens, they are going to get royally rolled over in this. And they know it. That's why they haven't done anything or haven't even talked about doing one yet. But that is exactly what we should be pushing for to happen. But that's the pony here having a good scratch. I don't know if you can see him. When you've just got that itch, you've just got a scratch. I don't know if you can hear the gate as well, squeaking as he's doing it. So, yeah, it's... Some more of this. We've all been there. We've all had that itch we've just had to scratch. Yeah, pony twerking. I think another one wants to have a go, and he's not. He's not having to. Oh, what do you want? Oh, we're being. Oh, what do you want? I'm being nibbled here. I'm being pushed along. We're being pushed along. I think we are. I'm being pushed along. So, yeah. Morning. Oh, so yeah, that's essentially just some of the continuing shenanigans that are going on again because of Brexit. Not too surprising, because again, we predicted most of this mess, and again, most of us were asking, well, hold on, we're going to leave, but how do you account for X? When Y happens, what about X? And we were assured that it wasn't going to be a problem. This was just another arm of Project Fear. So, again, that's just another ridiculous facet of Brexit, once again exposed to what it really was. So, anyway, we're coming up to the end of our walk together today. Oh wow, 144 people. So, hello everyone. I didn't realise we had that many people watching today. So, as always, thank you everyone for watching. Please do remember to hit that like button on your way out. Again, it helps out the channel so much. We've got such a good community here. Yes, you can. Thank you. You beat me to it. Thumbs up. So yeah, do hit that thumbs up on your way out. And of course, should you like to support the channel in another way, there is down below my Patreon page. So you can become a patron of mine and help support the channel, help me get new equipment, help me sort out new stuff to make the channel better. And of course, there is also a one-off donation link down below as well called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me a coffee. And thank you to everyone who does support me those ways, or whether you just hit that like button. Like they say at Tesco, every little helps. And like I say, as someone's saying, it's an Easter weekend, although it's bizarre because it doesn't really feel like an Easter weekend, considering everyone's coming off out of lockdown. And we've had the Easter weather on Tuesday and Wednesday. But yes, have an absolutely fantastic weekend, everyone. Enjoy your bank holiday the best you can. So yeah, enjoy yourself. As always, as they say, if you can't be safe, be sensible. Yeah, and have an absolutely wonderful weekend. And just, think about the ponies. If you're ever feeling down, just come back to this stream and just watch the stream of the pony just having a really good scratch. So, as always, we'll see you all next weekend for another good morning walk. And of course, watch out for more videos on the continuing random saga that is UK politics. So, have an absolutely fantastic weekend, everyone, and we'll see you all very soon.